Welcome to episode 53 of the Getting Married Multiculturally podcast. How are you guys doing today? Okay, I don't know why I'm asking this. This sounds like really American from me. When you're asking this question and you don't expect any answer back because that's just kind of a way of saying hello. It's always really weird for my family when they come to visit and people asking, how are you? Or what are you up to? What are you doing? How is your day going? And they don't really know how to answer that question. And I always tell them they are really just a way of them to say hello to you. So today is going to be just me talking to you guys. And since October, starting with episode 41, I got 16 guests here to share their experiences or their stories with you. And it doesn't mean that I'm stopping right now. I have so many great guests and people, experts and multicultural couples who are going to come to this podcast and share their knowledge and their experiences. But sometimes I just want to talk to you by myself whenever I have something to share with you or talk to you about. And in the first year of my podcasting journey, I shared a ton about my personal life and my marriage and wedding photography, which is one of my big passions. But just because I'm sharing the microphone with other amazing people, it doesn't mean that I don't have anything else to say. It's actually quite the opposite. I have a list of topics that I would like to talk about, and one of them is wedding websites. I think that you would actually be surprised how much stuff you can do and use the websites for. And plus, you can also just make the wedding planning a little bit easier, automate some things, make them digital so you don't have to write out a bunch of lists and RSVP cards. So anyway, before I share some tips with you on how to set up your wedding website and why is it important to have one, I would like to say a few words about our sponsor today, which is Zola. And if you haven't heard about this platform, it is actually a website where you can register and create your own wedding website and also your registry, and it's all for free. They have tons of designs and you can customize every page. And I just really love this platform. So I also created a video tutorial where I'm creating a brand new page from scratch, and it just helps you go through how to start and how to set up your website. And if you would like to check out that video, or you would like to read a little bit more about what I think about Zola and about this amazing website that they offer, then just go to editvashadi.com/Zola, ZOLA. And as a full disclosure, I think that's how you say that. If you register with Zola, if you decide that you want to have a website through them and you use my website to do that, I actually get a affiliate commission, which is a great way for you to support this podcast, the Getting Married Multiculturally community, so I can keep running this show. I think it's a win-win for both of us. All right, so if you are here because you just can't quite decide if you even need a website or if you want to have it, I have a few reasons why I think that you should definitely have a website. And if you fall into any of these categories, that you definitely should consider it. But if none of this applies to you, then maybe having a website for your wedding is not that important. I think one of the most important reasons why you should have a wedding website is because if you are having guests coming from all over the world and there's just so much information and so many questions that they have and so many languages, unknown cultural traditions, maybe they don't even know your partner or your fiance that you're marrying. So having a website that you can just send a link to all of these people to get to know and get more information about the wedding, I think it's very, very great way to kind of put everything together and have everything together in one place, because internet is something that the whole world has. So it really is a safe place to put all your information up and have accessible for everybody. It's also a good thing to have if you are not going to send out invitations. Actually, even if you do send out invitations, they might get lost in the mail, if you're shipping them around the world, and it's probably going to cost you a lot of money. If it's going to other countries, you maybe want to be just eco-friendly and save the earth. Whatever reason you have to not wanting to send out paper invitations, maybe you need invitation on multiple languages, and that would just be so complicated and a lot of work and a lot of rewriting and new prints. By the way, I actually did created a bilingual wedding invitation, so if you're interested, you can check that out. It's you can just find that at edithvashadi.com/bilingual wedding. Sorry, that's all one word. So you can see the little wedding invitation I created, where you can just edit, customize it on your own, just add the two languages, the invitations, and just print it out. But anyway, and if you like the idea of printing out invitations, Zola also has invitation paper goods, menus, programs, thank you cards that you can choose designs through that company. So that's the other reason why I love Zola, because you can really just do everything on this one platform, especially if you already have all your guests typed in with their addresses. All you have to do is just order invitations, and they will automatically be added to it. So anyway, I got sidetracked here. Sorry. If you decide that you would rather not have paper invitations, it's really good and necessary for you to have this website, so you can have all the things that you would put on invitations on a website and send it out to people through email, text message, or social media, or whatever else you use to communicate with the people that you want to invite. The third reason, I think this is the third one. Third reason is if you just want to show some photos of you as a couple, or how you got engaged, or where you guys live. Some photos that maybe you are not sharing on social media, because maybe you would say like, oh, I already have all these pictures on Facebook, Instagram, people already have seen them. But if you want to share a little bit more and a little bit more into details and more specifically, then you can just put more pictures up on your website and tell everybody on Facebook that if you want to see more pictures, just come to my website. So that's also a good reason to have that, especially if you have friends and families who have never met your partner. I think it's good to share pictures about him or her, so they get more familiar with that face before they show up on your wedding. So these are the reasons that I could think of that you would need a wedding website. But in general, I think just overall having one place where you can just share everything, all of the very, very important information that they can just reach whenever they want. Because, for example, if they get an invitation and it gets lost in their house, or they throw it away accidentally, or they put it in a drawer and can't find it anymore, then usually they would call you or text you like, what was the address of the venue, or when is your wedding, because I can't find the invitation. And all they have to do is just go on your website. They don't really have to call you all for all the little details. So anyway, just having everything in one place under one house, sort of say, I think it's very, very good. And if you have already made the website or you are just about to do it, I think you should still keep listening this episode because maybe I will share something that you haven't thought about adding to your website. Okay, so I think the first question that we should answer is, or I should answer, is when is really necessary for me to make this website, or when should I start making one or sharing it with everybody else? And I think my opinion is that you can pretty much set up a website as soon as you want, as soon as you get engaged, maybe even before you get engaged, because maybe you're just secretly hoping that it will happen soon and you just want a website. I don't know, whatever reason. But I don't think that it needs to be that you need to wait until it's announced publicly or until you have the date or you know when or where do you want to get married. So you don't really have to have a lot of information ready before you set up the website. And one of the good things about having a website is that you can just update it and perfect it as you go, add some more photos later, add some more information. You don't even have to announce it publicly that you have a wedding website. You just start working on it, updating it. And when you feel like it's in a good shape, that it's presentable for others, then you can, share it on your social media. You can even add it to your Instagram bio. I think it's a really good thing to do because you can add a little link to it and people can just click on. They don't even have to type it in, and I think that makes it even more easier and more accessible for people to find it. You can also like screenshot the website's image and put that up for people to see it. It's just more visible, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you're using. And you can also just tell people that it's not complete, that you would be updating it so they can keep coming back and checking back with the website, but you have one and you're excited to update it with new stuff. And I think that people, if they are interested about your wedding, they are probably going to be visiting that website often. And I also had this fun idea, if you are that kind of person who likes to involve your family or your friends into the process or the planning, then you can also just like put polls or questions up on social media. On Facebook you can put a poll up, or on IG stories you can poll up, and then also on IG stories you can do a poll and ask questions. Maybe if you can decide on a website design, like, hey guys, which one do you like better, this one or that one? And then they can help you choose. Or I think another really good questionnaire to have is like, which languages should we use? Like if you have a lot of languages used throughout your families and friends, and you can decide that what should be the priority language, that's also a good little questionnaire to have and see what comes up the highest, and then just use that language. Or if you see that a lot of people are kind of 50-50, then we should probably do the website in 2 languages. So if you decide to have 2 or multiple languages on your website, just make sure that you properly know how to write on that language or speak it. If not, then you can just ask us help from somebody in your family or your partner's family to help you translate everything, because it's actually a lot of work, and you have to make sure that you do it right, in a right way, especially if you're writing to people who don't speak the other language or your language. So overall, I think that just involving your family and friends, especially if you're really active on social media, it's a really fun and good idea to ask their opinions, ask questions, something that maybe you haven't thought about needing to answer or didn't come up in your mind at all. And just make the website together with your friends. But if you are not like that, if you're not really a public person, you like it to do things more privately, or you want something to be a surprise, or just keep your own opinion about something, then you can also manage these sites in a private setting. So you can actually set up this website and only people who know the password can go on it. And then maybe you can just share it with everybody once it's done, or not share it publicly at all. And you only send the link and a password to those who are actually invited to your wedding. If you have a smaller wedding, if you don't invite everybody and you don't want to have hurt feelings or confusion of, I saw your wedding website, but I'm not invited. If you're worried about situations like that, then maybe it is better option for you to not announce it so publicly. But also don't feel bad if you are thinking like, oh, I don't have that much time to always just tinker around with my website and change and ask people's opinion. Like, that's fine too. If you don't want it to be too much work and you just want to like pick one design, put up quickly the information and be done with it, that's fine too. I think it's totally worth it since it's free. Like, why not? But if you enjoy doing it, if you enjoy being organized or giving informations to people, then I think it's a really fun way to do that, where like everybody can see it around the world. One more thing, guys, that I forgot to mention: if you feel like you want to take notes and like make like a checklist of things that you want to add to the website as I talk, and you're like, oh, I didn't think about that, I need to write this down, and you don't have to like listen back this episode or pause it or whatever, because you guys are probably doing something else, driving or going to the gym. I don't know. Podcasters usually say like, you're listening this podcast in the gym, but I never do because I don't go to the gym. But I do listen podcasts when I'm like driving. That's most of the time when I'm driving, or doing some kind of task that doesn't require me to use my brain. For example, like doing dishes, or sometimes even cooking, or I don't know, getting ready in a bathroom. So anyway, but like usually I don't have the opportunity to write down things that I want to remember from a specific podcast. And I really love when the host does like a little run through or checklist or something at the end of the episode, so I can just grab that through the link. So I created one of these for you guys now, where I made like a little checklist checklist where you can check off things like, okay, date added or location added or whatnot, whatever I'm sharing, like photos added, and then you can just check off this list, and makes it easier so you don't have to listen this episode again and be like, okay, what did she say here? I can't remember this idea or whatever. So anyway, you can grab that through my blog post, which you can reach at edithvashadi.com/multicultural-wedding-website. Okay, now let's talk about the photos. Like, what kind of pictures can you or should you put up on your website? So first of all, I think a few of them are pretty obvious. First of all, like, you should have a picture of the two of you, probably on the homepage immediately, so people can see your faces. Then you can have some pictures about when you two met for the first time, or those first dates. Some engagement pictures if you have a professional photo shoot done. In some countries they do engagement photo shoots or pre-wedding photo shoots. If you haven't done those yet, you can always add them later, because that's the beauty about the website. You can just update, change your mind about the picture. You know what, I don't like this, or I like this other one better, and you can just change it. You can have some photos about the proposal or your getting engaged, if you had any of those. Maybe about moving to a new country, or traveling somewhere, or meeting parents for the first time, or whatever big memories, buying a house, whatever big memories you have throughout your relationship. getting your visa or being in a long distance relationship, and just cute pictures, screenshots of you guys talking with each other on FaceTime, or whatever you can think of that gives some personality to your story and gets let people get to know you better. Because here, and again, I'm just assuming, I'm sure that not everybody's in the same situation, doesn't apply to everybody, but if your parents have never met your partner, or you never have met your partner's family, and it's good to just kind of show a little personality on these photos. I really like this other cute idea to share some future plans and goals as a photo. If you have some dream travel destination, or you guys want to buy a house, or planning to have kids, you are planning to learn some new skills, like you want to learn how to cook your partner's favorite dish from their culture, or you're planning to learn their language, or something that you're planning to do in the future, and you have a photo as showcasing that's also like a cute little inspiration for the registry, or for people or guests to, when they're thinking about what to get you as a gift, as a wedding gift. Maybe that's like a good little clue for them. And I just want to mention this, guys, that I know that maybe not everybody that you want to uses internet, or uses goes on websites often. You have some older grandparents, older people, or you maybe have people from around the world where they don't have internet access as often as you would like them to, or they don't use social media, whatever reason. Just be considerate about them, and be thoughtful, and make sure that you know who those people are, so you can send them out some information, some, not just the invitation, but send them out some little papers or booklets, or whatever you need that for, to help them understand about your wedding, and just so they don't feel left out. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that make sure that if you are announcing your website early on, before making it fully done, make sure that you tell that to everybody, to say that, okay, I am going to be updating this website monthly, so make sure that you check back and see what's new. And also make the link available on multiple places. Don't just send it in a text message to somebody, because 5 months from now they are not gonna find that text message, and they're gonna forget about the link. So like I mentioned, I would put it up on the Instagram link, and then the Facebook, you can pin up posts on Facebook and just make it visible. And again, if you don't want people to see it, or you don't want everybody to see it, let's say that you want to put it up in your bio on Instagram, but you don't want every follower or every stranger who goes on your profile to go on your wedding website, you can always just make it private, and just send out the password for those who are, for whoever this is appropriate to check your website. Okay, so now let's see what are some other things that you can add to your website beside all the important information, because I always say that it's what matters, and what you absolutely should have on your website is the when and where for your guests to know. And everything else is pretty much fun fact and interesting information, or some, tips or suggestions. But, I think that as far as people who are invited, and they know that they are invited, know where to go and when to be there, that's all that matters. And then everything else can be figured out beside that or after that. So I collected a few things beside those that could be useful for your guests to check out through your website. So us as multicultural couples, I would say that most of us have friends, families, relatives in other countries who are invited to the wedding. So they're probably going to need a lot of information about traveling to your wedding. So you pretty much can treat it as a destination wedding. And if that applies for you, and I know it's not for every multicultural couple, some of you have everybody you want to invite in your town, which makes everything much easier. But if you don't, then having this website and putting all the informations on it, it's very, very helpful, so they don't have to bother you or call you every time. And if you have 50, 100 people coming from other countries, it can get very, very busy. And I had my interview with Rachel and Vider, American Indian couple who had their wedding, and they were saying that they had lots of people coming from India, and they really eliminated their guest list to just immediate family members, because it would have been so much work to the logistics and the planning to make sure to accommodate, oh, how do you even say this, accommodate everybody who you invite. So sometimes these visits or these invitations to your wedding, it can actually extend, and guests would want to stay longer, or they want to travel around, or they consider the wedding as they're going to visit you in another country. They haven't seen you for a long time. They are meeting friends and families for the first time. So there's just lots of expectations, emotions, and plans that people can have. There are people who like to rely on others a lot about asking a bunch of questions. Others like to be more independent. Maybe they want to sleep in a hotel. The others want Airbnb to share with others. Other people would maybe like to stay in your house. So it gets really complicated. So I think that putting as much information on your website as possible is very helpful and ahead of time. For example, what airplanes to get, where to get the airplane tickets, some websites, list of maybe the Ubers or cab or taxi, whatever you have in your town, some other transportation informations, or maybe public transportation if you have that and you want people to be using subway or a bus or whatever, train. Or then you can send out lists of Airbnbs, directions to locations. You can actually, on Zola websites, you can add maps to every location. So they just click on a map and it opens it up on their phone. Very easy and very convenient. You can also, the other feature I really love, that guests can, when you put a date on the website, they can just put that date into their calendar on their phone. So that's automatically added to their phone. That's also awesome. So anyway, basically you want to have information about the traveling, the transportation, where they're going to stay, accommodations. If they want to stay longer and travel around, do you have some information about some touristic activities, or some touristic how do you say that, like important famous things that they want to see, check out. But I think overall it's very important to just communicate with your guests that this is not where you just go visit, where they just come to visit you, because you're going to be very, very busy with your wedding, maybe going on honeymoon, maybe maybe meeting your partner's family. So you're not going to have time to travel around with your friends who come to your wedding. At least that's what I'm assuming. If it's another case, then good for you. And I'm really jealous that you have all this time. But if you don't, then make sure that you tell that this expectation to everybody else. In one of my previous episodes, we heard a story from Leah, who was having a also a blended wedding in Canada, and she actually had some plans before the wedding. They arrived a couple of days before the wedding to do some other activities, and they had guests arriving earlier than they expected to help around or to just hang out with them. So that's also a good tip from her, I would say, to make sure that you tell your guests if they arrive early, then you are either not going to be available or you would like maybe them to help out. They can help you set up tables, or maybe they can go to the airport with their car and pick up some other guests, or cook some special meal that you wouldn't be able to find anywhere else in that area, a cultural meal. So these are all really good tips and informations to add to your website for people to read it. And let me just say that not everybody is going to read everything. We are busy, or we see this long text and we're like, oh, I don't have time for this right now. Or they forget it because your wedding is going to be a year from now. So it's always good to, especially if you have people that you invited that they need to be reminded a few times, you can even just copy paste the same text and send it to them via email again, or print it out or whatever. So just be ready, because I have a lot of experiences on planning events, and I know that people like to call last second, ask about the address, ask about the date, ask about the food, or whatever questions that you never even thought that you need to answer in the last second when you're just occupied with other things. So I always say, and I'm probably repeating myself here a lot, but just communicating ahead of time, it's always better, or over communicating or repeating yourself than going like a crazy, like chicken, like a head cut off chicken. I don't know. I'm so bad at these phrases. Okay. You get what I want to say. Other things I wanted to mention is on the Zola website platform, what I also really love is that you can change the name of the navigation menu. So if you are having a wedding not in English or in different languages, then you can just change it. So where it says like traveling, you can just say utazás in Hungarian, that's traveling. So you can play around with that too. I think that was really cute. But speaking of languages, you can maybe also have some informations or some questions that may come up about languages for your wedding guests. For example, translation. You can add some links to some of the translator apps that they can put on their phone. This may seem obvious because you live in a kind of lifestyle where you're using multiple languages, but for some guests, you need to think about that this really is going to be their first time interacting with this other language. So they have never needed this kind of app. You can also put links about like a dictionary website, or you can also, if you feel really enthusiastic about this and passionate, just write down a couple of little phrases that you think they would need. For example, like, I'm lost, or I'm here for my sister's wedding, or my name is Edith. Just with these basic little phrases that they might need in a case of an emergency. Okay, so a next thing you can put on your website is some important information about the culture that is maybe unknown for your guests. If you have listened my last episode before this one, I interviewed Naira, who got married in Egypt, and she sent out some information about the dress code, how to dress in Cairo for her friends who were arriving from Colombia. So again, you can add some cultural traditions, dress code, maybe some social expectations, some laws. So you can add some information about the culture, dress code, social expectations, maybe some warnings and different laws, maybe some informations about the food rules that are maybe different from that other country. For example, here in America, you can't drink alcohol in a public places, and in Hungary you can. So that would be an information for me to tell others. Or in America, you can't have open alcohol inside a moving vehicle. Maybe not just moving, maybe just parked too, but you can definitely not have open alcohol in a car. It has to be in a trunk. So, these are kind of important things to tell my guests, and maybe I wouldn't think about, or I would forget it on a wedding day or before the wedding. So we don't want anybody to go to the jail before wedding. You can also add some like jet lag tips, how to overcome jet lag, um, kids activities. You can add some information about currency. Do I need cash, or can I use my bank card? Where can I find an ATM? We always suffer in Italy because we are so used to using our credit card everywhere. And when we go to Italy, we are usually, or not just Italy, but pretty much like everywhere in Europe, you are most likely you're gonna need to use cash, and we always forget to go to an ATM and get cash. So that's also something good to know if that's needed. Okay, let's see what else. Tickets. If they need to purchase some tickets for, let's see, a highway or a boat, they need to cross a bridge or buy tickets for a parking lot, just whatever else you can think of that would be necessary that they maybe wouldn't think about ahead of time. And like I said, having all of these things is really good because this way people won't bug you and ask you about it. And if they still do, because they probably will, all you have to do is say, just go to my website. Or if you have people who don't have internet, then just hand them a printed version of it. All right, next thing. Let's move this faster because I'm talking too much, and again, a very, very long episode. I am apologizing, but maybe you like it. Who knows? So, anyway, the wedding day time schedule, and other before wedding times, pre wedding dinner, anything else that guests can maybe add to their calendar and just prepare for, so they know when they need to change clothes, or how much time they need to get from one place to another. Also, another good information to have is what is the menu, any special description that you can add, or name, or ingredients, or options that they can choose from. Usually, if they RSVP on your website through Zola, they can choose and select a menu, what dinner they want to have, or whatever food you're offering. So that's also good to add some additional little description about each food, because maybe some of your guests are not familiar about that cultural dish or something. Okay, and the next thing is contact information, which is very important, that is not yours or your partner's, so they don't bother call or text you when you are getting ready for your wedding day. So it can be like the maid of honor's phone number, or maybe a vendor's phone number, parents' phone number, somebody who's in charge to pick up people at the airport. So make sure you have their contact information available on your website. And like I mentioned it already, you can also have an RSVP list on these Zola websites, which is also one of my favorite features that they have. So basically, you put a list of your guests on it. They can RSVP through your website. They can put their address there. And if they don't, you can also send them a text message or email all through this website, which makes everything so much easier. All right, so these were like the must haves on your website. And now we can move on to adding some fun things to it. For example, if you like to write, then you can write about how you guys met, about the proposal, about the engagement, some traveling adventures, even if you have some fun stories that is like a good memory, then you can share that too. For example, like how I got my dress, or some specific traditions, or little stories about the bachelorette party, or whatever makes your story special. You can even add some links that goes to a video, maybe on goes to a YouTube video or to a Pinterest board. If you have a very specific cultural traditions that you want to explain a little bit more to your guests, then you can add. You don't have to necessarily type it all out on your website if there's no more room, or you don't really want to overwhelm your people. Then you can just add links and say like, hey, if you want to know more about this tradition, then just click on this link, and that will take you to a YouTube video or Pinterest board or my blog post or whatever, where you can read more about it. So people who want to dive in more, then they can do that. So if you like to write stories, it's very good to have that written down. But even if you don't, I think, because I personally don't like writing, but I do it anyway, because then it's so good to have it after it's done. And I think that you can, for example, to your Zola website, you can even add a story about your wedding day, like after your wedding is over, and then guests can go and read about it, of how it was, or some special thing that happened, of like how you found this special meal, or how you found a white horse in a town that was so difficult. Just some fun story that you can add to it. Or, for example, if you are writing in English, but then you have guests who don't speak English, you can maybe direct them with a link to another page where they explain the same thing in a different language. That can be very helpful and considerate to those people too. I actually had a episode 32 called Introducing That Unknown Culture on Your Wedding Day, where I was talking about basically what the title says, how to introduce different cultural traditions on your wedding day to your guests who are not familiar with these traditions. So you can, listen that one if this is the topic that interests you. But adding a little bit of those traditions into your website can be useful, even if you want to keep some of them as a surprise. I think it's still good to, let your guests know that, okay, like usually in our culture the ceremony takes 2 hours, so just to let them have some kind of expectation. And the other reason, I think, adding cute pictures, and well, not cute, but like pictures that tells a story, documenting some event or something, like this is how we went to do cake tasting, or we were putting these centerpieces together in the middle of the night and it was so fun, and maybe you filmed it, or you did some cute like IG stories while you were doing it, and now you can put those little IG stories together as a short little slideshow with music, and then add that to your website. If you can't add that to your website, you can just upload it to YouTube and put the link on the website. And these are especially really cute if you have guests who don't speak the language, or don't speak the language of your website, or they don't understand much what's going on. But they can watch the video, or they can see the photos, and that will give them the same experience than if they would just have read the story. Next thing you can add is the list of your bridal party. It's kind of like an introduction of them. Add a photo of them. You can do that at the Zola website. So add a little picture of your bridal party and a little description about who they are, and what they're doing, what their role is. I would also recommend you, if you have family members who never met, to do a little introduction about them too. Like, this is my mom, this is my dad, or this is my fiance's siblings, and it's really nice if they haven't met before, uh, to have this little introduction before the wedding. So I also wanted to mention that, maybe you feel overwhelmed now and you're like, "Phew, there's no way I'm gonna put this many things on my website." Don't feel overwhelmed, because you can just add these as you go. Maybe just say like, I'm just gonna put on one thing at a month or whatever, depending on how much time you have. But it can also be a fun little resource for people who can't go to your wedding because they live too far, they can't take a day off from work, or traveling is too expensive, whatever reason you're having a small wedding, whatever reason they are not able to be at your wedding. It's good to like have these resources for them to see and read about the stories. Unless they get jealous, I don't know. Or they get upset that they won't get invited. I don't know. If you don't have any, hopefully it's not going to cause you any family drama to make other people jealous. But if you have people who wish they could come, who are invited but they're not able to make it, just have them go on this website and be like, just check out our video, or whatever you like to. So very briefly, I would like to mention the wedding registry, which you can also do through Zola, which is awesome. But I know that not every culture does this. So if you do, like if you don't know what the registry is in America, and I don't know if other cultures do this or not, but basically the couple would go on this website or a specific shop's website, and set up a registry and say just what products they are interested about getting as a wedding gift, and then the guest would go on it, purchase it, and then they would get that as a gift. It might be feel weird or awkward in some cultures, then you don't have to do that. That's not a setting that you have to have on a website. But if you do, then you can add that to the website, and they can directly, just when they go on your website, they can select the registry menu and then just pick a gift for you and purchase it. I also have another episode 16 where I was talking about gift giving traditions in multicultural weddings. So if this topic interests you, then you can listen that episode. So we are coming to the end of my list. I promise you. I know this is so much. Like when I was writing them down, it didn't seem this much, but now I see that I might overwhelm some of you. So I think that having that checklist is definitely a good thing that I made. Okay, so if you have some questions that guests are asking you constantly and you feel overwhelmed answering the same question all the time, or you don't want to feel awkward answering it all the time, or whatever reason you have, there is a Q&A section on the website that you can add, which means that basically you're just answering questions, and then they can just go and find their question and find the answer for it. And these can be, are kids allowed to your wedding, or can I bring a plus one, or what is the dress code, or some like cultural questions. That's the other thing that I forgot to mention, like a social cues or like a cultural differences. For example, like do people like to like kiss as when they welcome each other? Do they like to kiss or hug? And maybe in some cultures kissing is inappropriate or hugging is weird or whatever. So it's really good to like put this information, and you can, if you don't know where to put these, then you can just use the Q&A page and just say like little social cues for you when traveling to such a country, like do not kiss people, or I don't know, whatever you feel like it's needed for your guests to know about. And I also loved when I was browsing on Zola that they also have some pre-written questions in English. So if you have to translate it, you can do that. But there's some questions that are already written there, and with the answer, like, are kids allowed? Then it says like, we love kids, but this is just going to be a grown-up party. And they're already pre-written, so you don't even have to think about the answer or type it out, which I think it's awesome. And I already mentioned this before, but I just want to say it again, that it is maybe a bigger problem for you than for others, but it is, I think, a problem for now that not everybody is using website or wants to use website or knows how to find it. So I would definitely recommend you to try to put the link for your website on as much places as possible. Social media or email, send them an email, because everybody has their favorite way to connect with people or to talk with people. Everybody has their favorite place where they like to be, so just make sure that you spread out that link everywhere so people can find it. I feel like I'm repeating myself now, so I'm sorry. But I do have 2 tips on how to, like, sort of say, utilize your wedding website offline. One of them is I would screenshot or, take a picture of the website and then print it out and then add it to my wedding album. So after the wedding is over, before you shut down your wedding website, to just screenshot all the pages, all the fun stuff that were going on there, and then just add that to your wedding album as a fun little memory. And then my other tip would be, it's very useful to print out or maybe like have a printable version of the most important informations on your website that maybe your guests can just download on their phone or print it out, so they don't have to print out the whole page with all the links and unnecessary photos or whatever to use up so much ink, but just the important information as one sheet, like as one like document sheet or something. And the main reason I'm saying this is because when you are traveling in a new country, you might not have internet access, or your phone dies, you can't charge it, or whatever can happen with you, and you are in the middle of nowhere, you don't know the language, you don't know anybody, and you need to find an address, and your phone died, or you don't have internet, and everything is on a website, but you can't have access to it. So it's always good to just have like the main things printed out in your pocket. Well, not you. I'm talking to your guests here now. But you know what I mean. It's good to have it printed out. All right, I came to the end of my list. Whew, we're done now. If you don't have a wedding website yet, I really, really hope that I convinced you to have one, or I didn't scare you away from having one. If you have any further questions from me, just DM me on Instagram. You can find me at Edith Vashadi, or you can find me on my Facebook group, which is called Getting Married Multiculturally. You can join that, and that's a good place to chat about these topics with me and with the other listeners. Again, you can watch the Zola website tutorial that I made on my YouTube page. All these links are going to be added to the show notes and also to the blog that you can find at edithvashadi.com/multicultural-wedding-website. And then you can also grab the checklist there too. If you are going to register with the Zola wedding website platform by using my link, edithvashadi.com/Zola, ZOLA, I'm forever grateful for you. And just so you know that you have contributed to this podcast, and I am forever thankful for that. Thank you so, so much for listening all the way to the end. I will talk to you next week when I'm coming back with a guest. It's going to be Karen, who will be sharing her Salvadorian, Tunisian, Italian wedding. It is going to be a lot of fun, so make sure to check back next Friday. Bye, everybody. Sziasztok!